All right, Nick, let's talk about the Texas A&M Aggies. We've been giving you a lot of reports lately just how the Aggies have really been rounding out this team and coaching staff under newly acquired head coach Mike Elko. And this has been the last piece of the puzzle, I think, on the defensive side of the ball that they needed to round it out after a recent departure from the staff. Let's get on into the article and we can talk about it on the other side. This is from over on Aggies Wire, and it says, the old cliche goes, everything happens for a reason, and that is certainly evident in Aggieland over the past 9 days. The day after Texas A&M hired Mike Elko, retained Bryant Gross Armiento as a senior defensive analyst, and Wesley McGriff decided to return to Auburn rather than being the passing game coordinator and co-DB coach alongside Ishmael Arstidi. Now, only 8 days after that, Elko has found McGriff's replacement, and it's the face diehard members of the 12th man will know. According to a report from Billy Liucci of Texas Aggies, the Aggies have hired Kansas co-defensive coordinator Jordan Peterson as the co-cornerbacks coach. Peterson is a Texas A&M alumnus who played 4 seasons at Kyle Field before graduating with a bachelor's degree in sports management in 2009. Nick, I think this is such a great move for Coach Mike Elko. He's bringing back a familiar face to the program, a guy who's been around. He knows the culture of the Aggies because I think that he knows the culture of the Aggies as well, and he's kind of trying to, bring that feel back. Jimbo Fisher probably brought in a little bit different culture because he's a guy who has his own brand wherever he goes. It kind of follows him. I think Elko's really kind of trying to bring this team back to its former glory and take it in the direction that he wants it to go and that the Aggies Nation wants to go as well. And what better way to do that than to bring in somebody that he knows is very familiar with the culture and just kind of the way that things are done at Texas A&M. I think he's done a really great job rounding out this staff so far. And I think very quickly after the departure of one coach, he fills the slot with another very talented guy. Kansas defense over the last couple of years, Kansas has been more impressive, I think, than people have given them credit for. This is a team they've had a lot of great pieces, and they've been sneaky, a pretty good team over the last 2 years. I think this is a great hire for the Aggies. Curious what your thoughts are on it, but Aggies fans in the comment section below, what do you think of the job that Coach Elko has done so far of assembling his staff? Do you think he's made a lot of good choices? Is there somebody else that you would like him to get or somebody you thought would have been better? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts so far on this hire by Coach Elko?
Yeah, so let's back up a little bit and let's go to the hiring of Jimbo Fisher coming to College Station at Texas A&M. The whole belief set was like, okay, we're going to take the Nick Saban culture, plan it, and put it. Obviously, Fisher learning under Nick Saban, so not the exact same culture, but very similar dynamic, and transplant it and put it in College Station. And it obviously didn't work. And right now, we're seeing a lot of organizations, a lot of programs throughout the country recognize that you just can't take a coach from a certain environment and try and recreate it somewhere else. A great example of this is Lincoln Riley, formerly of Oklahoma, then goes out to USC, has a lot of success at Oklahoma, has really struggled in a lot of ways at USC. And the reason is, quite frankly, Los Angeles and USC is a completely different environment and culture than Norman, Oklahoma. It sounds kind of obvious when you say it like that, but a lot of programs and a lot of leadership of the programs really don't think like that. And it's important that you have to. There's a reason that for a long time, the Michigan Wolverines were terrible because they were bringing in guys, whether it's Rich Rodriguez or Brady Hoke, that don't know a lot about the Michigan culture up there in Ann Arbor. And suddenly they have more success when they bring in a guy like Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, who of course played at Michigan, is a Michigan man, understands the culture, brings Michigan back to the top of the college football world. That is the recipe for consistent success in college football because you have to understand what your environment, what your culture, what your school is like. The reality is Texas A&M is different than Alabama. It's different than USC. It's different than Clemson, right? Clemson, middle of nowhere college town. There's like 500 people in the town and half of them go to the school. USC is in Los Angeles. There's a million distractions, a lot of things that could go wrong. Iowa, right? It's got its own vibe there in terms of being just Midwest, cornfield, all that kind of vibe going on there in Iowa. Completely different environment. When you look at what Texas A&M is with College Station, they've got their history. They got, if you're an outsider in that environment, you look at what their yells and their chants and the 12th man, you're like, that's kind of weird. That's kind of different. But that's just who they are as a culture. And if you don't understand that, you won't be able to have success recruiting and developing players and keeping them in the environment. I think that's what devastated Jimbo Fisher. He just collected talent, tried to throw it on the field, and you had a lot of guys that didn't vibe with College Station, a lot of guys that didn't fit into the 12-man mantra and all that. And that just happens because again, every town, every college is different. It's important to understand the mindset, the culture, and the history of your environment. You have to do that in order to be successful. I think that's what we're seeing from Elko and his new staff right now, bringing in A&M guys who understand everything that goes into playing football for the Aggies. I think that will help them not only in recruiting the right guys, but also retaining the right guys as well. I love this move and the overall strategy that Elko has done so far. I think he's proven himself. We'll see how the results on the field. That's what really matters. But so far, he's proven himself to be a really good hire.
Yeah, and I think exactly the point you bring up, just showing there's two aspects to being on a football team. There's the playing of the game of football, but also there's being in the environment of the school, going to class and having to do that. And if you like we went to a military college, there's two sides of the ball to that one. If someone got recruited to go to the Citadel and to play football and they didn't know anything about the environment of the school, they would not last very long because it can be pretty tough as far as being a freshman, going to that school, having to get acclimated to the military environment. So if you go to Texas A&M, if you are going into that environment, the 12th man, college, all that stuff, you're not acclimated to it and you have no idea what you're getting into, you're setting your recruits up for failure. But what better to have a guy that can come in and really relate, say, hey, I went here, I played here, here's what it's like, here's the benefits of it, here's maybe some of the places where it falls short. But overall, I think this is a great school. So I love your point there, and I think that's going to be extremely helpful for them going forward.